Amanda Shires just released her highly anticipated album, Nobody's Girl. Her first album release since her high-profile divorce from fellow singer-songwriter Jason Isbell. And in this new record, she comes to terms with the end of her marriage with no punches pulled, as she explores the depths of love and loss while setting her sights on a new beginning. I'm Brent Funkhauser from Red Moon Media. Let's get into what makes this album tick. Before I begin, I just want to acknowledge that the content of this record deals heavily in the personal lives of Amanda Shires and ex-husband Jason Isbell, particularly in their divorce. This can be a pretty touchy subject matter for fans of both artists, and I myself don't particularly love going through people's dirty laundry. However, it's practically impossible to talk about this album outside of this context, maybe even more so than with Isbell's post-divorce album. So I just want you to know that when addressing this topic, I'm going to be doing my best to be respectful of the individuals involved and objective in my commentary. Leading up to the release of Nobody's Girl, there was a lot of speculation about what Amanda might have to say about Isbell and their divorce, and what new details might come to light. After all, even prior to the divorce, both artists were pretty open about their marital troubles. For Amanda, the album cycle for her 2022 record, Take It Like a Man, was built around the story of working through some marital troubles, and featured songs like Fault Lines that shared the story of a conflict between the two singer-songwriters. On top of that, the couple's reported challenges during the making of Isbell's 2020 album Reunions were put on full display in the 2023 documentary Running With Our Eyes Closed, which chronicled their rift and dysfunction for viewers to watch. And on social media and in the press, Amanda has been pretty clear that she did not agree with Isbell's take on their separation and the events leading up to it. So fans anticipated that there could be a reckoning on this record. However, when I listened to this record, I didn't feel like there was anything all too damning said about Isbell on it, other than that the divorce was extremely painful and she doesn't see it the same way that he did, although there is one song on it that is definitely a direct call out at Isbell and an effort to set the record straight, but we'll get into that in detail later. Amanda has done a few interviews and profiles leading up to this album release, and the primary theme that has permeated all of them is returning back to herself and trying to escape Isbell's shadow. And while this album travels the troubled road to get here pretty thoroughly, in most cases, Nobody's Girl comes off as Amanda's effort to come to terms with her past so she can move forward into the future. You can really hear this in the album's lead single, Away It Goes, with lyrics like, "I can show you how he left me, but I'd rather you see me thriving. And even I couldn't believe it when I felt my heart sprouting feathers and I caught myself dreaming again." The album begins with a short instrumental track titled Intro Invocation, which sort of functions as a musical theme for the album, with the fiddle melody from it being invoked again in Away It Goes and Streetlights and Stars. I've said it before, and I'll say it again, I love this method of starting an album. It's a great way to set the mood and get the listener prepared for the journey ahead. And I think especially for an album like this, which has a lot of subtlety to it, this is a great way to get the listener in the right headspace to actually pay attention and listen closely to the album. Amanda wrote these songs as she was working through her grief at the end of her marriage, which ultimately is an ever-present theme throughout this record. And it's interesting to hear how, even though they're not sequenced in a linear fashion necessarily, different songs on this album reflect specific points in the classic 5 stages of grief. In Lose It for a While, Amanda invokes denial by wishing that she could check out of reality for a bit, because that would be easier than processing the pain. In Peace of Mind, she delivers a fiery list of grievances against Isbell, reflecting the anger stage. Maybe I sees her trying to interrogate and justify both sides of the events that led up to their divorce, while Streetlights and Stars sees her dropping money off the Brooklyn Bridge trying to make a wish, both indicative of bargaining. Living feels like it's gotta be the depression stage, with the chorus saying, "Just existing can be hard, maybe living is an art." I can't decide if not feeling anything fits more in the depression stage or the acceptance stage, but without a doubt, Away It Goes is a display of acceptance. Whether this was an intentional creative choice or just kind of reflective of where Amanda was at as she was writing these songs, it's really hard to say. But I found it a really interesting lens to view the track list of this album through. Lyrically, Shires is putting her poetry MFA to work on this album, with lyrics like "A Leviathan of Lonely," how easily everything breaks, be it wine glasses, trust, or dinner plates. It's the wordplay on peace of mind, P-I-E-C-E, not P-E-A-C-E. Don't think I need to explain that. There's some great imagery and wordplay throughout these songs, complemented by her reserved yet powerful voice. Another moment of note is Can't Hold Your Breath, which on the surface might seem like it's musings on climate change and environmental catastrophe, but when you dig a little deeper, you realize it's a metaphor for being trapped in a toxic situation, which I thought that was pretty clever. This is a pretty interesting and wide-reaching album stylistically. I mean, we have orchestral strings and keys, saxophones, pedal steel, we have some loud rockers and slow ballads. And yet, despite the wide range of sounds we hear on this record, it still feels pretty consistent from start to finish. And I think we can probably attribute a lot of that to Shires' collaboration once again with producer Lawrence Rothman, who Shires previously worked with on the Take It Like a Man album. I think it's pretty fair to say if you liked that album, you're gonna like this one too. Now, one really interesting choice I picked up on listening through this album for the first time was that the song Lately features a slide guitar solo eerily similar to the one featured in Isbell's song Miles. This kind of sent chills down my spine the first time I heard it, and left me scratching my head trying to figure out why. I ended up actually posing the question in a thread in the r/Amanda Shires subreddit after someone else noticed the same thing. I got two pretty insightful responses from users there. One user suggesting that the lyrics of Lately kind of mirror Miles' theme of "you should have seen how things were before they got all screwed up." Another user also suggested it's similar to how Taylor Swift copied John Mayer's guitar playing style and tone on Dear John, as kind of a musical allusion to the transgressing artist in question. I think both of these theories have some merit, but I'm particularly interested in that second one, because I think it's very plausible, especially when you consider that little mini bridge that occurs right before going into the guitar solo, where Amanda sings, "The silence is too noisy and the music's too loud," as if it's somewhat of an acknowledgement that the story of that song has come to pass. Of all the songs on this album that deal with the divorce though, I think one in particular has caused the most talk: The Details, where Shires calls Isbell out for flipping the script and rewriting the situation to be more favorable to him on Foxes in the Snow. Bear with me because we're about to talk about this song for a while, but that's because it's a really dense text and one that, as a follower of both of these artists for many years now, I feel like I have some insight into, but also because this song is pretty central to the soul of the album and Amanda's mission of not being written out of her own story. Besides possibly Peace of Mind, this is the moment on the record where Amanda most directly confronts Isbell and offers specific criticism towards his actions. It also seems like Amanda alludes to and responds to specific songs in both her own and Isbell's catalog during this song. A storm come on in the rosy dawn, I was sitting on the front porch watching. I think this is a callback to Amanda's song My Love the Storm off of her 2016 album My Piece of Land, where she uses weather imagery as a metaphor for a tumultuous relationship. A pale rain, the wind got blades. I think this is a play on the song Wind Behind the Rain off Foxes in the Snow, where Isbell sings the lyric, "If you leave me now, I'll just come running after you, I'll be the wind behind the rain." But here, Shires is suggesting that him chasing after anyone could only lead to pain. No matter how clear I keep the memories, you rewrite them so you can sleep. The meaning of this is pretty self-evident, but when you consider that sleep was a recurring theme throughout Foxes in the Snow, and it kind of served as a barometer for Isbell's mental health throughout the record, I find this inclusion very interesting. Electric Sky, I almost died at least a couple dozen times. I think this is once again calling back to My Love the Storm, but also could be tying in with Death Wish. But of course, this is most directly addressed in the final verse, which let's just break it down. I got him help and then he bailed. What were all those promises for? Amanda famously helped Isbell get sober, an event he probably owes much of his success to. I think the promises here are their wedding vows, but also are representative of songs like Flagship, Vampires, Molotov, and other songs where he pledges love to her. Essentially saying, why did you make those promises if you were going to break them? Cover me up, nothing's ever enough, gonna have to put the house up for sale. Basically saying that Isbell can't be satisfied, and despite those promises in Cover Me Up, no matter what she gave to him, he would never be happy with it. It would never be enough. He scared me then, he still scares me now, never will hear me out. I think there are two things going on here. One, she's referencing the event that led up to her staging Isbell's intervention, his sobriety, and Cover Me Up, when Isbell tore off her dress in Richmond on High. Amanda said in the Running with Our Eyes Closed documentary how this moment was traumatic for her, and how hearing the inclusion of this event in the lyrics was always difficult for her, especially in live settings where people would sometimes clap after that line, which, having been to plenty of Isbell shows in and near Richmond, Virginia, yeah. Two, she's referencing Isbell's new song True Believer, where he says there's a letter on the nightstand I don't think I'll ever read. A lot of Amanda's fans have called out Isbell over this line, saying it's cruel that he won't hear her out, and I think this is Amanda expressing her frustration at his unwillingness to listen to her side of the story. The thing is, he justifies it, using me and cashing in on our marriage. There's a quote I often reference back to where Isbell said, "There's no fiction and non-fiction section in a record store," essentially stating that songwriters have the freedom to explore any avenue and combine reality with fiction. The idea is that sometimes you can use fiction to point towards the spiritual truth of a situation better than just the plain facts alone. And this is a tactic that I think every songwriter employs. But I think Amanda is drawing a line here and saying, you're doing this with our lives, and that's wrong. And while I think that part is fair, I'm going to share what might be a bit of an unpopular opinion and say that I think that cashing in on our marriage line might be a bit of a glass house type of situation. I think it's fair to say that both Amanda's and Jason's careers have benefited from their relationship, both during and after the fact. I think Jason probably did benefit more, as it's hard to deny that he's had a bigger career to this point. And earlier in this song, Amanda even points to the fact that she had to compromise on her dreams to help him achieve his. She feels like she could be further along had she focused on her own career instead, which, there's probably some truth to that. But she also did build the marketing campaign for her last record, Take It Like a Man, off of their marital troubles, even before each artist had their divorce records. And I think that probably pushed more people to listen to it. Again, I don't think she's incorrect in stating that he cashed in on their marriage, but I also think that both of their careers probably benefited from their relationship in some manner or another. Overall, this album holds up to what it promised listeners. A reflection of Amanda's thoughts as she navigates through the divorce and the complex emotions that come with the end of a marriage, and her opportunity to share her truth of the situation. In a way, it feels pretty definite. Though the album takes us through the different stages of grief and different points in time, it begins with acceptance, and it sort of ends with acceptance. Albeit that not feeling anything is sort of a bittersweet acceptance. It's a great album. I think it's one that's meant to be listened to front to back and not piecemeal as individual tracks. And it might be her most solidly constructed collection of material to date. Although for the time being, I'd still say My Piece of Land and Take It Like a Man are probably tied for my favorite record of hers. But that could change. We'll see. What did you think of Nobody's Girl? And what did I miss here? I mean, this was a pretty dense album. I have a feeling there are some details that slipped right by me. Let me know in the comments below. My name is Brent Funkhauser from Red Moon Media. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this, please subscribe. I talk about roots music, Americana, independent country music, folk, all that kind of stuff here on this channel. If you follow along, I might be talking about some of your favorite artists here soon. Thanks for watching.